Dear students, we are in the 12th part of the biomechanics of elbow complex, continuing from the 11th part. At the same time, when there is a rotation happening in the distal radial nerve joint, in the proximal radial, that is humeroradial joint also, the surface of the head spins on the capitulum of the humerus. So there is a spinning which is happening over the fovea of the radius over the capitulum. At the distal radioulnar joint, the concave surface of the ulnar notch of the radius slides around the ulnar head and the disc follows the radius by twisting at its apex and sweeping along beneath the ulnar head. So when this concave surface, that is of the radius, this concave surface of the radius, when it rotates over the ulna, also the triangular fibrocartilage structure the TFCC also comes with to the opposite rotational side along with the radius. The joint surface contact is optimal only with the forearm in a neutral position between supination and pronation, as I have already described to you. In maximal pronation and supination, the articulating surfaces have only minimal contact. In full supination, the seat of the ulnar head rests on the palmar aspect of the ulnar notch, whereas in full pronation, it rests against the dorsal lip of the ulnar notch. Now we are coming to the ligaments of the forearm. That is the three important ligaments in the radioulnar joints are both. We are talking about the proximal. Right now, all there are ligaments. You can see this figure here. You can see the whole joint here. You can see the joint that is the proximal radioulnar joint. Here the distal radioulnar joint. You can see the membranous fibrous covering, that is what we call as interosseous membrane of the forearm, and you can also see the oblique cord which is present here, and then you can see here this is the better view of the or zoomed view of the superior radioulnar joint. Here you can see the quadrate ligament, the annular ligament which is covering. This is the quadrate ligament which is actually between the edge of the concave surface of the ulna and the towards the head of the radius, and the annular ligament which is also accompanied with the cartilage. Here you can see the ligament, and the white colored is the cartilage. And here you can see in the proximal itself, you can see the quadrate ligament. Here the quadrate ligament fibers are shown like in lines here, and here you can see the what you call as the frontal view. Here we are seeing here it is in the superior view, here is in the frontal view, and you can see the oblique cord. Why it is called oblique cord? Because of the obliquity of the cord. So the three ligaments associated with the proximal or superior radioulnar joint are the annular, the quadrate ligaments, and the oblique cord. The annular ligament is a strong band that forms 4/5 of a ring. That is almost a total ring, but a little bit of gap where the concavity of the radial head is there. And the other area is the ulna has been totally encircled the radial head, and the inner surface of the ligament is covered with cartilage and serves as a joint surface. The proximal border of the annular ligament, here it is the annular ligament is covering the total annular, the radial head has been covered by the annular ligament, and it is not a full circle because the rest of the portion is the ulnar part has been left over. So that's why we calling it as a 4/5 of the ring that encircles the proximal radial head. The inner surface of the ligament is covered with cartilage and serves as a joint surface. The proximal border of the annular ligament blends with the joint capsule, and the lateral aspect is reinforced by fibers from the lateral collateral ligament. So the annular ligament has reinforcement from both the joint capsule as well as the lateral collateral ligament. We have studied in the earlier when we studied about the elbow joint also. The quadrate ligament extends from the inferior edge of the ulnar's radial notch to insert in the neck of the radius. So as you have seen, the quadrate ligament inferior edge of the ulnar's radial notch to the insert to the neck of the radius. Quadrate ligament reinforces the inferior aspect of the joint capsule and helps maintain the radial head in apposition to the radial notch. The quadrate ligament also limits the spin of the radial head in supination and pronation. So there is a function. It has gives stability and of the radial head in opposition to the radial notch, and also it has another function, that is quadrate ligament limits the spin of radial head in supination and pronation. Oblique cord is a flat facial band on the ventral forearm that extends from an attachment just inferior to the radial notch on the ulna to insert just below the bicipital tuberosity on the radius. The fibers of the oblique cord are at right angles to the fibers of the interosseous membrane, which we are given in a short form as IOM, interosseous membrane in a short form. The dorsal and palmar radioulnar ligaments. We have discussed that with the figure earlier, showing how taut they were during each movement during supination and pronation and mid-prone. The dorsal and palmar radioulnar ligaments, as well as the interosseous membrane, which stabilizes both proximal and distal joints, reinforce the distal radioulnar joint. Now we are coming to the distal radioulnar ligaments of the. We have gone through the ligaments of the proximal radioulnar joint, which are annular ligament, quadrate ligaments, and the oblique cord. Now we are coming to the distal radioulnar joint, and the ligaments of the distal radioulnar joints are the dorsal and palmar radioulnar ligaments, as well as the. Now we are, even though interosseous membrane are present throughout the shaft of the radius and ulna, we consider that as part more as the with the inferior or the distal radioulnar joint, because it has more role played during the motion of the distal radioulnar joint. That's why. The dorsal and palmar ligaments are formed by longitudinally oriented collagen fiber bundles originating from the dorsal and the palmar aspects of the ulnar notch of radius. The two ligaments extend along the margins of articular disc to insert on the ulnar fovea and the base of ulnar styloid process, which I have mentioned earlier in the figure showing the triangular shape of the margins, where both the dorsal, that is the posterior, and the palmar, that is ventral distal radioulnar ligaments. The palmar radioulnar ligament, or the anterior ligament, the distal radioulnar ligament, is at least 2 mm longer than the dorsal or posterior radioulnar ligament. According to Lynch-Shade, the dorsal radioulnar ligament averages some millimeter, that is millimeters in length, whereas the palmar radioulnar ligament averages 22 mm. So the palmar radioulnar ligament averages more than compared to that of the dorsal radioulnar ligament. The interosseous membrane. We are now talking about the interosseous membrane. The interosseous membrane has three components. It's located between the radius and the ulna. It's a complex structure consisting of the following three components: the central band, the thin membranous portion, and the dorsal oblique cord. The whole interosseous membrane has three parts: the central band, the thin membranous portion, and the dorsal oblique cord. The central band is described as being a strong, thick ligamentous or tendinous structure consisting of bundles of fibers that run obliquely from the radius to the ulna. It has a very high collagen content and arranged in fibrillar structures surrounded by elastin. So you can understand that earlier when you studied the second chapter in this in the biomechanics textbook, the joint structure and function, you know that the composition of the joint was given, joint structure. So you know what is collagen. The collagen, it has to give more of a stability and it has to give a strong stable function. Collagen has to give both a kind, it should will allow movement but will not allow any kind of elastic movement, and elastin gives elastic. So the collagen which is arranged in the central area and surrounded by elastin means that it has both plastic as well as elastic, and that will give the tensile strength. So that the tensile strength of this central band is increasing. The combination of collagen as well as elastin will increase the tensile strength of the central band. And to compare the tensile strength, they are saying that the tensile strength of this central band of the interosseous membrane between the radius and ulna, that is the interosseous membrane of the forearm, is almost 84% of that of the patellar tendon. We all know that in the lower limb, the patellar tendon, which is actually a tendon formed by all the quadriceps muscles, the four muscles of the anterior, that is the extensor muscle of the knee joint, which is considered one of the strongest tendon next to the Achilles tendon. And we are talking about this central band of the forearm, which has almost 84%, means that is a very strong band which has a good tensile strength of around 84% of that of patellar tendon or even the Achilles tendon. The membranous portion is described as a soft and thin structure that lies adjacent, proximally and distally to the central band. So the other part, that is the dorsal oblique cord, is considered to be part of the interosseous membrane and should not be confused with the oblique cord located on the vein. So there are anterior or posterior oblique cord present in the forearm, but the oblique cord which is present in the posterior is part of the interosseous membrane. The other anterior or the ventral oblique cord has already been described as the other ligament which is part of the superior or proximal radioulnar joint. So don't confuse this oblique cord with the oblique cord which is present in the anterior part, which is part of the superior radioulnar joint. So the dorsal oblique cord is considered part of the inferior radioulnar joint. That because of we are considering the interosseous membrane as part of the biomechanically as part of the inferior radioulnar joint. The dorsal oblique cord extends from the proximal quarter of the ulna to the middle region of the radius. Its fibers run counter to the central band. The interosseous membrane, in a short form IOM, maintains space. What is the role of it? So it maintains space between radius and ulna during forearm rotation. According to an MRI study, MRI study was conducted by Nakamura, the central band remains taut throughout the forearm rotation, apparently to keep the radius and ulna from splaying upward. So the main aim or the function of the IOM, that is interosseous membrane of the forearm, according to study conducted by MRI study conducted by Nakamura, has been proven to that it will not allow the radius to move away from the radius, and ulna will always keep as a parallelly together, not moving away from each other. Even though they can rotate or move over one another, but they will never move away, or the word using is splaying apart or splitting apart. The interosseous membrane maintains transverse stability of forearm during compressive load transfer from the hand to elbow. The next function of the interosseous membrane, first thing is it will not allow the radius to move away or split away from the radius, and the radius from ulna or ulna from the radius. Second function of the interosseous membrane is it maintains the transverse stability of the forearm during compressive load transfer from the hand to elbow. A tract extends from the interosseous membrane and inserts in the distal radioulnar joint capsule between the tendon sheaths of the extensor digiti minimi and the extensor carpi ulnaris muscle. So this tract's deep fiber inserts directly into the articular disc, which you already know as triangular fibroarticular cartilage, that is TFC. The tract of the interosseous membrane is taut in pronation and loose in supination. The articular disc also provides the stability for the inferior radioulnar joint by binding the distal radius and ulna together.